What up, guys? Welcome in to the Wide Nation of Sports podcast. Got a doozy here for y'all today. Bronny James, he just had a pretty big outing the other day. Hit some big shots for the Lakers in the summer league. But for me, it's not so much about the numbers. It's not so much about his development right now in the summer league. So much about kind of his improvement. It's more so just on him getting kind of acclimated to play, getting a feel for the game. I have not seen the game, so I'm not going to comment on how he's been playing or his stat lines. But it's going to be interesting to see kind of moving forward what he does. I'm sure he's going to be going to the G League. But really the main topic, and it's still something that is coming up a lot, people are talking about, is the whole nepotism aspect. And for me, is it nepotism? Yes. Is it so bad? No. Am I a fan? Am I someone that gets behind nepotism? I don't know if I'm like pro nepotism, like, waving that flag and wearing that very high and proud. But I will say that I think for Bronny James, he's getting a lot of heat, getting a lot of attention, not necessarily something that he's brought upon himself or something that maybe he wants, but you got to say LeBron James, someone who was definitely, in my opinion, orchestrated this, definitely someone who wanted this, definitely someone who planned this. We heard him playing it before. You heard, I think it was last year when he said, "Oh, he's better than half the guys out here in the NBA and Lakers, in the rotation." Like he was talking like he could be some sort of rotation player that was ready right then and now. And I think it's pretty clear that he's not ready for something like that. But I'm not knocking LeBron James. I don't know if I would want to necessarily get millions of dollars for my son if I was in the NBA and I could play with him and he had the potential to kind of come in and I could springboard him in here and lift him into the league. The 4-year deal, he got a 4-year guaranteed contract, which was probably the most startling thing of all this kind of development. But I will say this, there's. When I look at kind of my trajectory in journalism and kind of the things I've done over the years and some of the stuff that I've kind of sought out, and there are times when maybe not nepotism could have benefited me, but like something like a mentor or something like a veteran in the field, advice, regular meetings, someone getting me an interview for a job I like, that's definitely happened. There were sales jobs, medical sales jobs where I had a friend get me an interview, and then not only did he get me the interview, and he knew the guy I was interviewing with, so he knew kind of what would be needed to be said to try to get that job. But he also really coached me up and said, "Hey, do this. Sell him like you are going to be selling him that you can do the job, just like you'd be selling a medical device." Which it's not nepotism, but it's something, right? It's networking, it's connections, like. They say a lot, it's about who you know, and I know a lot of the time people are saying, well, just because you got the family name or it's the business is in the family doesn't mean that you should get the advantage. But I do think I'm going to leave it at this. Ultimately, when you go into a field and you work hard, you treat people well, you treat people with respect, you treat people the same, whether they're the janitor, whether they're your boss, whether they're your resource. As long as you're very respectable and you work hard and you don't let your name do the talking or the fact that you got the title, that you have the position director, reporter, or beat reporter, I think ultimately what matters is that you work hard, you come in, you get dirty, you get gritty, you make sure the job gets done, you go over and above, kind of overachieve like nothing's owed to you. Now that is what people are going to see and remember you by. And if you get your foot in the door because you're in the family, but you work your tail off and you show that you're an asset and you're value and you don't come in acting like you're better than everyone just because you're daddy's son or you got the name, that is what's going to stick. And ultimately, if Bronny does find a way to power through and work hard and become a rotation player down the line, I think that's what people are going to remember. And yeah, did he get like the ultimate push? I should say just shove, ultimate just like force to get into the league. He did, and there's a lot of guys that would like to have something like that themselves who probably can have a better jumper and can handle the rock as a lead guard and things like that. But I think it's in Bronny's court now to just work hard and take advantage of what he's got and just know that, like, hey, be down to earth, a down to earth guy, be coachable, be a good teammate, and just know that this stuff will fade away and he will get his chance to be in the league. Maybe it's not fair, but ultimately this is where we're at. A lot of the time, you just need to kind of adjust to circumstances, kind of get on the train, and then, like I said, he needs to put his head down, go to work, and just know that, like, he's going to be judged on what kind of person he is around his teammates, around his coaches, and just kind of how he takes things. Does he bounce back? And, I think that's ultimately the medal that players need, to be coachable, to be able to bounce back and to treat others well, to be able to work within a team, within a framework, be able to deliver the game plan. I think that's all things that are kind of characteristics and traits that he'll need. And ultimately, that's why we like sports. That's why we're doing this, and that's why, that's why we like to watch it. And for all the fans out there, commentators, media, pundits, you appreciate grit, grime, working on stuff, and I think that's ultimately the American dream and what Bronny can achieve here. And so that is my take on the nepotism and ultimately what matters and ultimately where things are going and where Bronny James and anyone in any field, any career path can get to, and that's what to look for. And, it's that work ethic, bottom line. Did a little bit of a dive here on looking at the Atlantic 10 and kind of gauging, I talked to Josh Schertz. I told him it's kind of for me, what I see as a level up in terms of going from Indiana State to St. Louis Billikens, programs aside, just conference level, going from the Missouri Valley Conference to the Atlantic 10. I do think that is, call it a half step, maneuver, 1 step, 2 steps. I do think it's a solid step and a half. I'm going to call it move up in terms of what the conference has done there in the A10 and recent years. Maybe their brand as well, going to a couple different arenas for their conference tournament and trying to get their name out there. Some of the coaches, there's some bigger names coaching there in the Atlantic 10. I don't think that necessarily that you could say they're that, head and shoulders above the Missouri Valley coaches. But, you got guys like Anthony Grant. You got guys like Fran Dunphy. You have Frank Martin. Drew Valentine. I mean, you got some good guys there, some guys that have been around the block, been doing this for a while. It's going to be interesting for sure to see how kind of the transition for Josh Schertz goes there in the A10. But highlighting kind of some of the programs that I wanted to just kind of discuss and what they've been doing, let's say in the past 20 years, 10, 15, let's say 15 to 20 years in Division I. I think it's worth noting. And so let's get into it. So let's start with Davidson at the top. They've been 5 NCAA tournament appearances since Steph Curry had that glorious run where he took them on quite a ride to the Elite 8 in 2008. So, Davidson's been able to stay pretty relevant since then. As I said, conference alignment has moved a lot of these teams around. And so right now, they've had somewhat of definitely a relevant and relevancy there in the A10, and they've had a good stay there, and they've been playing, getting to the big dance on a pretty routine occasion there for a mid-major. Next up, team VCU, the Rams. They had 7 straight tournament appearances from 2011 to 17. As I said, they've moved around a little bit, but that's definitely when they started to that's definitely when they were at their program high, having a really good trajectory. In 2011, they made the Final Four. That was when, like I said, the start of that torrid stretch. The Rams tacked on 3 more bids after that 2011 to 2017 stretch. And then they also got to the second round 3 more times in addition to when they went on that 2011 Final Four run. So, yeah, they've been definitely sticking the course. Dayton's had 5 bids since 2014. 10 years ago, they progressed to the Elite Eight. They were the class of the A10 last year. They got a win in the big dance. Of course, they lost in the A10 tournament, which saved the league or gained the league another bid or stole a bid from another conference, maybe even potentially what might have been Indiana State. And yeah, that was something that they've been pretty steady, strong program since 2006. Because they went to the tournament and because Duquesne won last year's tournament and Dayton got an at-large bid, they helped the league skate by in terms of getting a multi-bid league again. Since 2006, here's a stat line for you, stat of the day, whatever you want to call it, for all those people out there. They've had, since 2006, they've had one season where they had gone into a March Madness without multiple bids. And so UD kept that going last year, like I said, by losing in the A10 tournament. And if you look at it, since 2012, the conference has had at least 3 teams in the tournament. So two at large, and one automatic. So right there, I mean, they've had hot spells, dry spells. As I said, this kind of shifts with the conference realignment over the years. A lot of teams moving in and out, but they've held steady even, like I said, getting multi-bids except for 1 year since 2006. And then if you look at Loyola Chicago, we're going to move on to them. So obviously with Porter Mosier, shout out to the Missouri Valley Conference. They did this in the MVC. They went to the Final Four in 2018, and then they went again to the Sweet 16 in 2021. Obviously, they had that big win over the Illini, Illinois in-state program. He upgraded, went to Oklahoma, and the Ramblers, they went dancing the following year with Drew Valentine in charge of the ship. And again, like I said, shout out to the Missouri Valley. They got that done, and that's he's still at the post there, and another team that's definitely helping the A10 remain very competitive. George Mason, they haven't done much recently, but historically they've been good. Got to the Final Four in 2006, that huge run when they beat UConn. And then Richmond, you got a team who has been to the NCAA tournament 3 times since 2010. In 2011, it went to the Sweet 16 and won a game at March Madness as recently as 2022. And then finally, Josh Schertz squad, the St. Louis Billikens, have 4 appearances in the Big Dance since 2012, and they have 3 first-round wins during that sequence. So, if you look at that, what they've done, the Missouri Valley, has definitely painted a very competitive just alignment of teams, collection of teams doing really well, thriving. But a lot of the strong teams traditionally in Missouri Valley aren't in that conference now because of realignment. Wichita State, Creighton, Loyola. So I do think the A10 is level up, and there's some numbers for you guys that kind of paints the picture. Again, here's my interview with Josh Schertz. All right, guys. So welcome in. Our latest guest is a coach who needs no introduction, but I'm gonna give him one. He's advanced to 3 national semifinals at the Division II level. He's coached at Indiana State for 3 years. He is the reigning Missouri Valley Coach of the Year, as well as the Hugh Durham National Coach of the Year, bestowed to the best mid-major coach. Welcome to the show, Josh Schertz. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it, Hunter. It's been a while since I've seen you, so it's good to connect.
Definitely, most definitely. All right, so I don't want to spend a ton of time talking Indiana State, but I did want to I guess brush on this to start. When you look at kind of this was your first transition, moving up, leveling up from a D1 school to another D1 school, and it's something that it's going to have a lot of moving parts, kind of what you went through this past spring, and a lot of attention, kind of as the one of the hottest names in college basketball. But what can you tell me about, is there something that kind of snuck up on you in this whole process, something that like you weren't aware of, what it might look like for like moving up, going to a more high profile job, and is there anything you feel like you'd want to have back?
I mean, you go through these processes, you never know, going in, like, I think there's people assume it's a lot different on the outside than it is on the inside. It's not like, in January or February, like, what your options are going to be, right? Like, a lot of it depends on, how well you do, right? Like we were, whatever, at one point 11-2 in starting in January 1, right? Or something. And if you finish 18-13, your options would be a lot different than if you finish, 30-3 or 30-2, right? So I think like, there's not this, oh, you have these options, these options, these options. When it came down to it, it goes from nothing to a lot. And then you're trying to compartmentalize. I think you have I was fortunate, I had a number of different options. And I think the way our season worked out, I told my agent going through the process that I was gonna talk to teams after we played in St. Louis, and I wouldn't talk to anybody outside of Indiana State prior to that. Indiana State was the only team that I would have a discussion with before we finished our conference tournament. When that conference tournament ends on that Sunday, there was going to be a week before we knew who our next opponent was. Their selection Sunday was a week later. And so
Mhm.
whether we the NCAA tournament, which we thought we were going to be in, or the NIT, we wouldn't know who we were playing, and guys are going to be off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So that was a window that I felt like I could, capitalize and have conversation. I was going to do that without it interfering with our preparation. And so I was very upfront with that with, the people at Indiana State and also my agent and everybody else. And I think everybody kind of respected that process. And, that's how it played out. And then I think, as you go through it, I put a lot of time in those few days, but when it came back to refocusing back on the NIT, we're obviously disappointed not to get in the NCAA tournament. My attention turned to the NIT and this group doing what it could. And I was, the players were kept in the loop every step of the way. There was no, blindsiding. I discussed it with individual players. The team, Indiana State, was kept very much in the loop on, what was happening, job offers, opportunities. And my agent and the schools that were, looking at me were also in the loop on everything. But, the hardest part going through it is trying to manage, the conversations with your agent and other people, and then make sure you're maintaining your focus on the job at hand, which was the most important part. And then we shut it down as we got to the NIT, and I waited until it was over to make a final decision.
And you mentioned that the different timeline when, most teams are going to be in their conference tournament, you guys were done a week early. When most teams are done with their season, even after the first week in the tournament or whatever it was, you guys were playing in April. Did you feel like that timeline, just kind of the differentiation, the abnormal timeline, I should say, kind of impacted some stuff or helped you or just worked in a certain way?
I think I said this, like, I think if we had lost earlier, I don't know that I would have been at St. Louis. I probably would have been, I don't know that I would have been back at Indiana State either. I think there was another opportunity that I probably would have gone to. I think the way it played out probably made it more likely for me to be here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, and had we lost early, maybe it would have been, back to Indiana State. I don't know. It was hard to tell. I think playing all the way into April, there was this created this very long runway where, there was a lot of speculation, from, middle of March basically, or kind of leaving the conference tournament, all the way till whatever we finished, April 4th or April 5th, whatever it was, that was our last regular season game. I think it was the 4th. And it really wasn't like that internally, though. A lot of what people, think on the outside, and they assume like, it's not that way on the inside, and it's a big difference. And I think, I tried to, with our players always, and the people that I'm, that I'm around on a daily basis. I think I'm, a pretty transparent person. I'm not somebody who, hides a lot of stuff or, tries to avoid things. I think I take them head on, and and so in the locker room that was addressed, and then it was like, all right, let's put all this aside and let's focus on what really matters, which is trying to go out and win this NIT. Because if you remember, we didn't get in Sunday. It was devastating, and guys were really in a bad headspace on Monday. My thought wasn't on, other stuff. It was on like how to do this
Right.
and this job. And so it just wound up being this incredibly long runway, which gave me some time to really, I guess, think more through of exactly what I wanted for this next career step.
And then transitioning into moving into Atlantic 10, there's going to be really strong players, really strong coaches. The level is a level up from Missouri Valley. I think I just looked this up since 2012. I believe the A10s had at least three teams going to the big dance every year. There's only been one, they've averaged, I should say, at least three teams going to the big dance. And there's only been one time that they've had only one single bid. So a lot of multi bids. Definitely since kind of the turn of 2012. What can you tell me? I know for you, it doesn't matter whether you're going into another league or you're getting a new job, but like for you, I know hitting the film and the books like is something that you do. Like anything you can tell me you like to work on in the off season as you get ready for a new year or something that you're currently kind of working on.
Well, I think, certainly, I think the A10 is certainly, I would say probably a step up, but I would also say like the Missouri Valley is a grossly underrated league in terms of, the quality of play and the quality of coaches. And, the step that I'll make from the Missouri Valley to the A10 will not be nearly as steep as the step was from Division II to the Missouri Valley, and so I think that league is terrific in every way. It's such a fun conference. In terms of for me, I think this off season when you make a job change it's choppy. You'd like it to be more seamless. It's not. When I got here, we had to sign or recruit 11 players, schedule 12 games, raise a bunch of money, do a lot of the stuff here with the media, building community relations. So it's been a sprint for the 100, and I think I've been here 101 days now. And it's been a sprint for those 101 days to, put this together and get us in a position to, where we are now. Hopefully there'll be a little time here to kind of dive in and study. Of course, I'm always looking at basketball wise, what's next. I've traveled some already, met with some different coaches, some different people, and had some great opportunities this off season to talk with or fly in with or meet with various coaches. And then you're looking at your roster. Of course, this team is, I had so many people, on the road. They're like, man, we're going to run your offense this year. And, I would be like, I'm not saying it, but I would think like, I'd love to run our offense from last year this year, but, we don't have the same personnel. So
Mm-hmm.
it just, basically, what we had last year was special. It's going to be different this year. Hopefully it's as good. That is a pretty high bar, but we're going to be different. And that's part of what makes coaching fun is, coaching is maximizing and bending your system to the strength of your players. And so I think we're certainly looking at ways that I can evolve and grow as a coach to, help these guys, help this particular team maximize itself, in a way similar to what last year's team did. But, the pieces are different. Robbie and Isaiah are the same, and hopefully better, a year, a year of experience behind them. But the other 11 guys to me are all brand new, and they're going to have to, have to find our way through, work our way through it. And I'm working on, like I said, evolving myself, and we're always going to put that in. But the league will be exciting. The Atlantic 10's a really good conference. You said a multi-bid league, year in, year out. And I think it's a league that was seventh or eighth last year in the net. And I think it's a league where the competition top to bottom is terrific. But again, I think it's the jump from the Missouri Valley to the A10 is probably not as steep as what people would on the outside would think. Not because I think the A10 is overrated. I think it's a great league, but because I think in a lot of ways the Missouri Valley is probably underrated in terms of how good a league it is top to bottom.
And then, Coach, you talked about how busy it's been there, getting into St. Louis, getting your feet underneath you. What about? I heard you were the U18, helped out with some of the training camp with the players there for the USA national team, for the U18 team there in Colorado Springs this past May, and was I actually saw they won the America Cup in Buenos Aires after you and a couple other big name coaches kind of helped them out and kind of showing them different things. Is that kind of a chance for you to kind of develop some relationships, maybe potentially down the line, maybe some recruits? But like, what can you tell me about that experience?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I took away was me and John Shire arguing in pickleball about me not understanding the rules of pickleball. So I think that was a huge thing. Shire was on me, like thought I was like, you're some sort of spacing guru, and I couldn't understand the spacing of pickleball. So it doesn't translate, obviously. So no, but it was a blast. I'll say a couple of things on that. One was, look, I had a really small part of that, but putting on the USA basketball gear for practice, like you get goosebumps. Like it's so cool to think that you're a small part of USA basketball, and I mean they give you this load of gear when you get in this USA backpack, and I mean it's just amazing. Like you really do get goosebumps putting it on. Unbelievable coaching staff. Tommy Lloyd, I just got to hang out with him some at Peach Jam, and you see now John Shire, Micah Shrewsbury,
Mm-hmm.
guys that you didn't have relationships with that the best part of the whole deal was like the 2.5, 3 hour dinners after the day was over. Those were awesome because you got to sit around, try to order the best food in the menu for free because I wasn't paying for it. And so eat as much steak and lobster as you can and drink wine. But getting to know those guys, talk ball, get to know them as people, and you create those relationships. You get to coach some unbelievable players. And I think it was probably for me, it reminded me of my GA days. It was a lot of work, a lot more work than I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I didn't get paid, and you just get paid in food and gear. So it was brought me back to my coaching roots. And it's been a while since I've been an assistant. It's back to 2008, last time I was an assistant. So to go somewhere, be in a different style of play, to learn a different system, Tommy's system in Arizona, to run drills, to be on the floor. It was super cool to take a different role, but those relationships, get to meet those guys. Now you see, a John Shire or a Tommy Lloyd or a Micah Shrewsbury or Grant McCaslin or whoever, and you have a different, now a relationship with those guys because you spent 4 or 5 days together out there in Colorado.
And last one I'll get you out on. So I guess it sounds like John Shire isn't going doubles partners with you, or might want to take you one on one when if you guys can potentially get a pickle game going. What can
Uh,
you tell me, real quick? Last question for you about you shared a lot about Matthew Graves and how this is a job that you want him to get. This is his moment now. He's the head coach here at Indiana State. What can you tell me though about maybe some of his personality, something that's probably going to come to the light a little bit in terms of something that people might not know about him here in Terre Haute right now?
Graves is, he was the first person I hired when I got the job. He is, he's an Indiana legend. Him, his family. You don't gotta, everybody in the state of Indiana knows the Graves family. I think the thing that's probably maybe a little bit underrated with Matthew because he's such a good guy and he's so kind of affable and down to earth is just how competitive he is. He's super competitive. He's the guy that's gonna really he's gonna embrace the heck out of being the coach at Indiana State. I think like I always say good player, right fit, great player, good player, wrong fit, bad player. I think the same holds true for coaches. I think a good coach and the right fit is a great coach, and I think Matthew's an extremely good coach, but I think Indiana State's a great fit for him. He's from the area, he's got roots there, he's a Hoosier through and through. He's going to do a fantastic job. But I think the thing that, like I said, people maybe outside because doesn't show it, doesn't wear his emotions on his sleeve, but he's a super competitive guy. He's really smart. He gets it. He knows ball. And I'm happy for him. I mean, I know. This was an opportunity he really wanted. It's an opportunity that he he deserves. He was a big part of what we were able to do there the last 3 years. When we took the job, I think that was a big reason he came back was, he hoped that, some point, he'd have a chance to be a head coach again, and who knew, what the circumstances would be. But I don't think he could have drawn it up any better than to take over Indiana State. And I think he's sincere when he says, that this is the perfect job for him. I believe that. I think he's going to do a terrific job in keeping, not just keeping going what we had going, but making it even better. I really believe that. I was lucky, like at LMU when I left, my assistant Jeremiah Samarippis took over, and 3 years later they've won 3 straight league championships, 3 straight NCAA tournaments, and I go back to LMU. No one even remembers who I am, and it'll be very similar in Terre Haute. He's going to do a great job, and I'll be remembered, but not. He'll take the bar and move that, take the ball and move that bar higher, and I'm excited to see and watch what he does.
There you have it, folks. SLU new men's basketball coach Josh Schertz, very humble one at that. Really appreciate you coming on, Josh. This next segment is on the girl herself, who is just dominating and really coming into her own, coming of age in her rookie season. I'm talking about Caitlin Clark. And right now, folks, she went into Olympic break going out with a bang. She had a sterling 19 assists, which shattered the WNBA record on Wednesday. Her team lost that game. They lost to the Indiana Fever, lost to the Dallas Wings 101-93 on Wednesday. Again, that's the final game where she gets to now sit back, get a good rest after pretty long seasons there at Iowa and not much of a break to get ready for the WNBA, which started there in the spring. It's not the traditional, calendar that you would have for, say, from college basketball and NBA, where you'd have a summer league and some stuff to get ready before the fall when the NBA comes around and you got college players kind of adapting and getting some rest. So just getting some well-deserved rest, gets to plop down on the couch. 19 assists. I do believe, from what I was reading, I believe she's an alternate for the Olympics. I don't know if she's actually going to get over there and potentially be on that team. We'll see how that unfolds. You guys know there's always kind of some different things happening. But either way, doesn't matter. She had 19 assists, went out with a bang before the Olympic break. And did it in a losing effort, but definitely turning heads and coming into her own as a playmaker, as someone who can deliver the rock on a platter, and continues to sell out arenas, NBA arenas, and I do think in terms of the noise and some of the drama out there, I think it has kind of died down as the season's gone along, which. Drama definitely brings some eyes, but I think it's great for her to kind of just settle in, focus on ball, now get a good break, and we'll see where kind of that takes her. But the Fever got to feel like they rebounded a bit to kind of have a decent record to try to get to the playoffs in the 12-team league moving forward in the W.